Hello and welcome everyone. I'm HatTopGaming and today we're talking about the latest turn-based strategy game in Warhounds. I don't normally do first impression videos, but seeing this game is going to probably take me some time to beat, I wanted to give some of my early thoughts on the game, and as it just came out, I imagine many of you watching this video either haven't heard of the game or you're on the fence about buying it. I also want to thank the people behind the game, as not only did they give me access to the closed beta prior to release, but they also gave me a free copy of the game. So thanks again to them, and let's start off by talking about the premise of the game. So you are the Warhounds, which is a mercenary company hired by the president of this African nation on the brink of collapse due to civil war. You do your best to collect intel, capture important figures, and disrupt the enemy. The game is a mix of Jagged Alliance 3 and Xcom, but rather than using RNG, the game relies on ballistics information such as distance, cover, and the weapon you're using to determine damage. You play missions in squads of 4 with 4 possible specialists to choose from in Heavy Gunner, Medic, Sniper, and Close Quarter Shotgun guys. The game follows the same XCOM style. After each mission you complete, you see a progression bar representing how much the enemy has taken control of the region. You deploy your soldiers to not only firefights but on stealth and intel gathering missions. Characters level up over time, granting them new abilities that will help them in combat, and of course permadeath plays a large part into the game as your soldiers are not invincible. You also have to build up your base, upgrading new facilities that not only improve soldiers' healing and skill progression, but give you bonuses to better help complete missions. Enemy variety is a strong point here, as there are over 8 kinds of enemies with their own unique weapons, appearances, and tactics, so you can better identify who does what. The game overall has a solid foundation, and I really think with some more fine tuning, it can really make a name for itself, not only due to its unique setting, but also due to its more down to earth premise being mercenaries fighting in Africa. So now that you get the gist of the game, I want to talk about the state of the game as it plays currently. At the time of this recording, there's been 4 hotfixes released to date, and looks to be more on the way. Now, that's a good thing, but it's also where the problems kind of start with this game. Now, since I didn't have time to play the closed beta, I didn't play until the full release, and I'm currently over 10 hours into the game. I've played a handful of missions up to this point, and I'm not gonna lie, I've seen quite a few bugs. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the channel, I play games solely on the Steam Deck and the Xbox Rogue Ally X, so take what I say with that in mind. But for today's first impressions, I was only playing on the Ally X, as when I booted it up on Steam Deck, the game basically just wouldn't run. So whether it be the frame rate going down below 20, bodies of both allies and enemies flickering, camera issues, and more, I haven't really been dealing with anything too bad, but it's just been constant. Now, what actually inspired me to make this video is running into a bug where I could only take about 3 turns into a story mission before either me or the enemy would get stuck in a running animation, and the game would essentially just freeze and I would not be able to progress. From what I hear, there are also reported save file issues, which thankfully I have not had to deal with. But moreover, it seems with each hotfix, they're still trying to fix the same problems that people are reporting over and over and over again, and they also seem to be breaking more stuff. So it's very much a double-edged sword right now, unfortunately. And with all the efforts seemingly focused on squashing bugs, and perhaps not doing a great job at it, it makes me think the first real patches for the game are going to take some time before they really come out. And I really think the game needs those balance patches right now. Now, there's been other attempts in the genre to be more realistic and pull away from the RNG-ness of games like XCOM, but this is where I think the game suffers the most, as it seems to be having an identity crisis as to how realistic it wants to be. We can start off with the simple stuff like why do shotguns and snipers only have 3 bullets before a reload? I understand the attempt to balance these weapons by limiting ammo, but that's not the way to do it. Heavy gunners and regular rifles you run shoot in bursts, so that makes sense that they only have 4 to 5 shot attempts before a reload, and the heavy gunner takes a full turn to reload their gun since it's a box bag. Okay, makes sense. The game says it uses ballistics for accuracy and weapon damage, but there's been multiple times where I'll be right there next to someone and have an open shot and still miss when there isn't any ballistic reason for doing so. For example, I'll be aiming right at someone about 5 tiles away and they're wide open, but the game still registers the cover they're behind as a penalty against my accuracy, even though the cover in question isn't even covering the side of them that I'm aiming at. Going back to shotguns, they're also so nerfed so hard. I'm tired of games doing this. I don't care if you're running buckshot or slugs, they don't just suddenly stop working after 10 feet. In Warhounds, you can't be more than 10 feet from someone without barely scratching them regardless of cover. Aiming a shotgun is not hard. I would know because I own one and I take it with me to the range to shoot. So again, what is this ballistics math? The game also needs to adjust the hitboxes related to terrain. I'll have an enemy who's a whole floor beneath me shoot and hit me from a side angle in which just would not be realistically possible. Inversely, you may also have a shot on an enemy, but it will end up being a miss because your character will be trying to shoot through a bunch of stacked up pallets in front of them, or take some weird angle around a car, and I don't know if the game's being dumb, or if the accuracy rate I'm being presented is just straight up wrong. Now, this next part, I'm going to talk about things that I personally took issue with, so stay with me here. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the game is very political, as you may imagine. I mean, war and politics, especially a civil war at that, they just go hand in hand. I don't take issue with what's being discussed here. I take issue with the way it's presented and how the game is very preachy. Now, not only through the dialogue of certain characters, but also making you make choices that will affect the region and have clear and obvious political statements behind them. Like, yeah, war bad, I've heard it all before. They introduce other factions operating within the region and tie it to how and who will control certain things, and the president who hired you will preach to you about what's right and wrong given the circumstance. It's like, dude, I'm not here to be lectured by you. You hired me to kill people and help you take back political control. What do I care about how you run things when I'm gone and I'm not from the area, and you don't seem to have an army of any kind backing you up in your government? There's another snippet from the game in one of the missions where a general is talking about leading the refugee operation and kicking out those using drugs, and your radio contact gasps at the idea of doing something so awful. Like, dude, we're literally killing people for money. Please shut the fuck up. Sometimes characters will have little chats among themselves before or after a mission ends, and I really don't mind it, but due to the voice acting being very generic sounding,
Don't panic, dude. How hard can it be?
it's almost a pain to listen to. Like, there's no AI generated content as far as the store page says, so I don't know why everyone sounds like the fucking Focus M video.
Thought I smelled something burning.
Focus M. Bowser's got the power stars, and you know what that means.
I could forgive that, as some of the stuff they're talking about wasn't the most forced and unnecessary dialogue I've ever heard. Like, why the fuck are my mercenaries talking about respecting women in between firefights?
Someday, imagine somebody said those things about them. You'd kill that son of a bitch on the spot.
Oh, they're diesel easy. I love the ladies, in all senses. I catch up to them and love them again.
What a joker. You know, my father once told me if a man doesn't respect his woman, he doesn't respect himself. Think about it.
Damn, not talking about my woman, dude. I mean those, escorts.
Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Speaking of, why are half the possible recruits women? Like, come on guys, let's be serious here. It makes sense in XCOM because it's literally humanity on its last legs, you need everyone you can get to fight. But let's not pretend there's some surplus supply of female veterans looking to fucking do mercenary work. Also, like 80% of the recruits, regardless of gender, have the same backstory of being a drunk who's divorced and has 2 kids. You guys really couldn't think of anything else? I know it might sound like I only have negative things to say about the game, but I do really enjoy the base of it. It feels like a coin flip when it comes to what does and doesn't work with the game in its current state. The base game is solid and the mechanics are interesting. They definitely need more fine tuning as they don't always work as intended. The graphics and sound design is good, but characters, guns, and enemies look generic and far from asset packs. The missions are tense and require genuine strategy, but the enemies are overly coordinated for rebels, and mission difficulty is always set to like hard or impossible despite me playing on normal difficulty. The finer details that really matter in a game like this are equally there and not. Each mission a true balance of, do I restart or do I accept losing some soldiers so I can finally beat this level that's been kicking my ass? Trust me, I really had to think about it sometimes. I like having to worry about making enough money to not only pay for supplies and upgrades, but also pay my mercenaries. The interlooping narrative that clearly expands beyond the scope of just kill bad guys is interesting, and I can see the setup for some possible future conflicts. The UI and overlay is strong, and I never had to worry about what something meant, as the game does a really good job of explaining what something is and its consequences. Ultimately, my first impression of the game is that it needs work, and a decent amount of it too. Coming in at just $30 with the introductory discount and $35 after on August 25th, I think it's a good price for a game that I expect to not only fix its issues, but really improve on the foundation it's set. I recommend you pick up the game, so long as you're aware and okay with the game needing a little more time in the oven. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. I'm HatTopGaming. This has been my first impressions on Warhounds. If you're interested in picking up the game, I'll have a link to the Steam page down in the description, alongside my social media pages, so you can follow me on there for any updates and news for the channel. I'll be making a full review of the game in a few weeks or so once the improvements have been implemented, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Peace.